The Atrium's collapse. The West Baden Springs Hotel opened in 1852, built over mineral springs that drew the wealthy from Chicago, Indianapolis, and beyond. By 1902, the Grand Atrium had been added, a 200-foot free-span dome, the largest in the world at that time, with a bicycle track circling the upper gallery. Guests would ride slowly in the evening air, looking down at the fountain below. October 29, 1929. The stock market fell. The hotel staff gathered in the main hall as telegrams arrived throughout the morning. Guests stood at the railings, watching the ticker tape being read aloud. Some sat on the grand staircase, heads in their hands. One woman fainted near the fountain and was carried to her room. By noon, the crowd had thinned. By 3, most had retreated to their quarters. 2 men did not go inside. They had arrived separately, one from Chicago, one from Fort Wayne. But the staff would later say they stood together on the roof for most of the afternoon. They did not speak. They simply looked out over the valley, watching the October light fade through the trees. At 4:17, a chambermaid glanced up from the second-floor balcony and saw them standing at the roof's edge. She turned to fetch her supervisor. When she looked back, they were gone. She did not see them fall. She saw the space where they had been. Their bodies were found in the service courtyard, not beneath the atrium, but around the side near the kitchen entrance. The drop was 80 feet. The Orange County coroner recorded both deaths as suicide by jumping. The hotel management requested discretion. The Fort Wayne newspapers ran brief notices. The Chicago papers ran none. The hotel continued operations through the Depression, though occupancy fell. In 1934, it closed to guests and reopened as a Jesuit seminary. The priests filled the mineral springs with stones and converted the Grand Atrium into a chapel. They placed an altar where the fountain had been. The bicycle track above remained unused. The first sighting occurred in 1936. A young seminarian reported seeing 2 figures standing on the upper gallery at dawn. He assumed they were fellow priests taking morning air. When he greeted them, they did not respond. When he looked again, the gallery was empty. The second sighting came 3 months later. Another seminarian, descending the main staircase after evening prayers, glanced up and saw 2 men standing at the railing. He described them as wearing suits, dark, old-fashioned, formal. He blinked, and they were no longer there. The Jesuits did not speak openly about such things, but a journal kept by the seminary's librarian, discovered decades later during renovations, records 17 separate sightings between 1936 and 1964. Always 2 men, always standing, always gone when looked at directly. The seminary closed in 1983. The building sat vacant for years, its windows boarded, its atrium dark. In the early 2000s, new owners began restoration. Workers removing debris from the upper galleries reported tools going missing. Ladders left in one location would reappear in another. Twice, contractors refused to return after seeing movement on the roof. Movement that stopped when they climbed up to investigate. The hotel reopened as a luxury resort in 2007. The atrium was restored to its original grandeur. The bicycle track was refinished but remains closed to guests. A front desk clerk named Angela was the first to report the modern sightings. She was closing the atrium for the night in March 2009 when she saw 2 men standing near the track's far curve. She called out, asking if they needed directions back to their rooms. They turned toward her, but their faces were too distant, too shadowed to make out clearly. She walked toward them. The gallery was empty. Security footage from that night shows Angela walking alone. The timestamp reads 11:43 p.m. The gallery railing is visible in the frame. No one else appears. But at 11:44, Angela stops walking. She stands completely still for 6 seconds, staring at something off camera. Then she turns and leaves quickly, her hand against the wall as if steadying herself. She resigned 2 weeks later. Between 2009 and 2018, hotel records show 8 formal complaints from guests who reported seeing 2 men on the upper gallery. Each description matches: dark suits, standing close together, unresponsive to calls. Each time, security found the gallery empty. The hotel now keeps that section of track locked, but guests still see them. Not walking, not moving, just standing at the edge, looking down, as if deciding whether to step forward or turn back. In October 2022, a maintenance worker named Marcus was repairing a spotlight near the roof access. He heard voices, low, urgent, arguing in a language he couldn't quite make out. He climbed higher, thinking someone had bypassed the lock. The roof was empty. He descended. As he reached the gallery, he glanced back up. 2 men stood where he had just been, silhouetted against the atrium's glass ceiling. And then they weren't standing. They were falling. Marcus described it later as silent. No scream, no sound of impact, just the sight of them dropping through empty air. And then nothing. The floor below was bare, the fountain undisturbed. He walked down to the courtyard outside, near the old service entrance. The October afternoon light was fading through the trees. He stood where their bodies had been found in 1929, looking up at the roof's edge far above. The hotel still operates. The atrium still gleams. Guests ride bicycles on the lower paths and take photographs beneath the dome's soaring span. But the upper gallery remains closed. The brass plaques cite structural concerns, and every October, near dusk, staff avoid the atrium's eastern side. They have learned not to look up. They have learned not to ask questions when a guest reports seeing 2 men in dark suits standing very still, watching the light fade through the trees.